So this is where the climber's foot is, and this is where the bungee or that ascender is getting lifted up. So they're two separate pieces now. It's very modular, and that's what becomes really good about it. Is not only is it's lifting from basically the same area above the cam as the single bungee was, it also provides for a modular function that I think some of you would like. At one time, guys were talking, and this is when the knee ascender first came out. They, obviously that's what they did. They attached it to their knee. And I always would make the point that if you did that and you actually attached it to your knee rather than having a floating knee ascender like the SAKA is, if it's attached to your knee, then you've eliminated this muscle, which is the strongest muscle and largest muscle in your body. And so on one leg you're using the strong muscle, and then on your other leg you're not using that strong muscle at all. You're just, and the movement of the leg would tend to push you back a little bit. But I thought, it's not my intention to tell people what they want to use or what's more efficient. It's just to try to find a better way to use what people want to use. So using the same now modular system, and this is going to be, this is kind of a prototype, but using the same modular design for the knee ascender, this is attached directly to the knee. So and then I'll show you this before I get it attached to the knee. So basically what you do is this goes into the leather part. This is leather, and then I've sewed a neoprene cushion onto this. So it fits in and slides into that slot. It goes in here, slides in across the slot to keep it in place. And then, I think it's pretty obvious at that point how this is going to work. It also provides, as your lower leg is moving, it provides that ability for this to kind of rotate and be, to follow the direction of the rope rather than to follow the direction of your knee. And tomorrow I'll go out and I'll climb the tree and show that this actually works. But that would go on the knee. And you'll be able to find the spot that's most comfortable for you. And then the ascender goes on the knee. And then this would be adjusted. There's a couple ways we're going to be able to do this. You can make another type of a strap that goes onto the side. I personally like to have the attachment above my shoes so that it provides the stability for my foot. So what I would do is now adjust the length of this buckle. So that's adjusted to the length I want. And again, it goes on the foot loop. And now when I put this on the rope, and I step down, that will follow with me. And I'll do a video where this actually works. It's not actually my preference, but the advantage to this is that now you can quickly get on and off the rope with your foot ascender and your knee ascender, and you have nothing really to store. So it's just, you're going to leave that on for the climb and sacrifice some of the efficiency that you would get from a floating knee ascender like the SAKA, and go with something that's permanently attached to your knee that you just leave on your knee. You don't have to take it off and store it. So here's the accessory for the knee mounted ascender, and I'll just put this on my knee. Like I said, it's not as efficient as a way to climb, but there's some advantages to not having to take your ascender and stow it, and if you're doing repeated short climbs, then that's worthwhile. That goes on the foot loop. Again, the pin just goes through that mount and slides over and basically stays in place, and it does allow some articulation depending on the rope position. So I'll put my harness on and we'll go up on that. Alright, foot ascender. So I've made a couple fine-tuning adjustments to the SAKA Mini Max, and there was a post or two this last week that made me want to clarify a couple things. I think some people misunderstand a couple things about it. So I just want to clarify it and then point out a couple minor improvements that have been made. First of all, this is the core of the SAKA Mini Max. The ascender, the tether, the buckle, and then this is the foot loop on there. So of course with this buckle you can adjust any length of stride, and I've talked about that a bunch of times, so a good thing. But again, this is the core of the SAKA Mini Max. Here, this is a bolt, and it's securely attached to the frame of the ascender, but nothing else is securely attached to the frame of the ascender. Simply the bolt. The bolt doesn't work as a traditional bolt. You're not bolting things down to this. It works more as a pin for the new modular design that now has become the Mini Max. And I really like the modular design. I'm a kind of guy that likes a lot of flexibility, a lot of versatility, and a lot of efficiency. That's my thing, is to get it as versatile, as adjustable to the individual user, and also make it very efficient. While I'm talking about efficiency, let me talk about one thing too. You'll notice that the SAKA ascenders, they're all flat on the back. They're not like a chest ascender or some other ascenders that would have a curve to it. When you're climbing with a chest ascender, you're leaning back a little bit, so oftentimes the design of a chest ascender is that it has a certain amount of curve to it. With a knee ascender, we want this to pull straight up, and we don't want have any curve. If you have some curve, or if it's pulling off to the side someplace, then you're going to get additional friction from the cam and the body of the ascender. So to me, the most efficient way that this ascender can reliably go up the rope is straight up the rope, and with an attachment that's straight above the straight body of the ascender. So I think it adds to the efficiency and how quickly it's able to ascend to the rope. And you're standing on the foot ascender, and this knee ascender needs to go up. That's all we're doing, is we're getting something else to bring the knee ascender up. And again, this is all modular now, and I really like that. So this is the part, we call it a bungee guide. It basically just guides the bungee. And I had a user, part of the reason I'm doing this video is I had a user post the other day they said, only on my second time this thing came off. And I didn't get all the details as to how they were using it, but that's intended to come off. It's not attached, it's not bolted to this, and it shouldn't be bolted to that. This is simply in a position that when it gets pulled up, that slot lines up with that pin, we'll call it, bolt, and that allows the ascender to go up the rope. And of course, this will be attached to the climber. So again, this bungee is not lifting my weight because it's attached to me. I mean, you can't lift yourself off the ground by pulling up on yourself. So this isn't lifting any of my weight. It's simply repositioning the ascender when I'm going up the rope as efficiently as possible, and also have adjustability. So look at all the stretch, and this is my own special bungee cord. You can't buy this bungee cord. I've had this bungee cord designed solely for my purpose of this knee ascender. But if you'll notice, and take your own bungee if you want, whatever you have laying around the house, and make a comparison. But this is basically right there at the top of the ascender, and look at how much stretch I get out of that right there. That's an incredible amount of stretch that's coming off the top of my ascender. So if a person is adjusting that up here or down here, it won't matter, because they can put all kinds of adjustment into that. And as I pointed out before, there's a lot of extra bungee down in here, and I've covered it up with this sock. And the sock simply keeps that from flopping around. Now, again, when you notice that this is being used, there's nothing attached. There's nothing attached to this tether. There's another reason I have nothing attached to that tether. I started out trying to keep this a little oriented, and I had Velcro on there, but this is very, very different than the original SAKA. So if this were like on the original SAKA, this was sewed onto this tether with the tubes on the outside. So give this some thought. When you think about the function of this tether is always getting pulled down, because that's where the climber's foot is, and then it's being pulled up because it's attached to the climber, and so it's being tended. So this part of the tether is always having tension. It's always getting pulled up. Now this part, the bungee guide, is completely different, because the bungee guide, it doesn't ever have tension, because there's no foot attachment on here. This is not supposed to be pulled down. It always has compression on it. The bungee is down here, and it's always compressing longitudinally this bungee guide. So if these were fixed together, now between every step we would have a conflict built in to that design. So in other words, when I'm stepping down, it's pulling down on one part of it, and then when I'm lifting up, it's pushing back up on the other part. And if those are securely attached together, you've built a conflict of the energy, and depending on how that ascender is attached and all that kind of stuff, it can be a loss of energy. So with this design, this is always pulled down. That tether only sees tension, and the bungee guide only sees compression. So don't bolt or even think about securely attaching the bungee guide to the tether. It shouldn't be attached. So some guys are going, well, I'm not sure if I like that moving around. So there is, in the design of this, the center part is much thinner than the tubes where the bungee is. So if somebody wants that to stay more closely oriented, again, but not attached, don't attach it to the tether. If you attach it to the tether, this will come off. It's just not securely attached. It's not designed to stay attached. And that'll become more clear when I talk about the modular design of this. So if somebody wants this to stay more closely oriented, I just let it be where it is. But now I do send it out, and this has got Velcro cable wrap. And this other Velcro, this is a piece of Velcro in here. It's the soft side Velcro. It's basically there to cover up. When I wrap this other webbing around the tubes and I assemble that whole piece, if I didn't have something on here, there'd be an open seam and it wouldn't look pretty or anything like that. So we put that on there just as far as a cover. It's not there to attach anything to the tether. But I do have a cable wrap that goes along, and it's just a positioning function. So I'll put it like right up here, and because that builds a channel, if you put this cable wrap around that part of it, this is still, again, see how that's just falling up and down? You don't want this attached to the bungee guide. It freely moves. Again, this is the part this climber is standing on. So everything just freely moves there, but it helps it stay more oriented, and I guess just a little cleaner of an installation just to keep that on there. So that cable wrap is on there if you want to keep that from moving it around. That way when you're pulling on it, you know, it stays lined up. But again, you don't have that conflict between this having tension and this having compression. That is part of the modular design. And again, this cable wrap, it comes and it's down here. It kind of helps keep the reason I put it on there is it keeps that sock from sliding off the end and helps keep that extra bungee all tidy and neat. And there's enough extra bungee in there. You can see again how much stretch I've got out of that. If you take the rest of that bungee, you can put that up and wrap it all the way up and around your back to do that. Again, this is not intended to be securely attached to the ascender. Speaking of that, when I did have the Mini Max, a popular thing was the separate bungee. Because of this modular design, this can still be used. If you're going out someplace and you need a more compact design, then this will work. And you can attach this to your chest harness. Again, this bungee has a tremendous amount of stretch and is strong enough to recoil the ascender. So some guys will do it and they'll put it over their back or wherever you're going to want to attach it. That's part of the modular design. That gets attached to the knee ascender for those that want to use the Mini Max in the fixed knee position. Another possibility, and I'm not going to sell these, but if some people wanted to use this, another option is these keychain retractors, and these can be used to get that same kind of stretch coming off of the ascender. It's just you need another device right there. But again, this might be suitable if somebody wanted to fold all this up and put it in a small ditty bag. And it's going to come up and hit me in the thumb, but I'll sacrifice myself in the video. So comes up very responsively with very secure engagement. But again, don't bolt this, sew it, or anything to the tether. It doesn't need to be, and that's not how it works best. The bungee guide, the fixed knee ascender, the regular super stretch bungee and keychain retractors. Oh, and again, another thing, if you want to use one as an ankle ascender and another one as a knee ascender, that works too, if you're going to use two of them. I've done it also where I'll put 2 foot loops on here and kind of do that sit stand if I'm going up in my bare feet to my whatever. So, okay, so that's stretched out, and that comes up as fast as I can lift my legs. So. Alright, here we're standing on it again. I got that. Ouch. Yeah. Foot came off. Part of the tether. We gotta get Pooch in there. Starring Chardonnay. Huh. You did good, girl.
You did good. Did you have your hair combed just right and everything? Yeah, way to go. Thanks. Thanks for helping.